ThekarmicDF.
What is up, besties? It is your girl, the Karmic DF, back to you again with another video, and this time we are going to talk about how to actually love yourself. And I know that seems like it's kind of hard to do. I totally get it. I'm going to give you some tips and tricks like I usually do, and if you need a part 2, let me know down in the comments. But we are going to get into the why you don't love yourself, what tricks I use to hijack your mind so that you can have a healthier mind and then you have a healthier look on yourself as a whole. So if that's something that you want to do, if you're tired of being mean to yourself and you really just want to step into your power and really learn to just accept yourself for who you are, love yourself unconditionally, and so that you can attract better relationships of all shapes and sizes, then this is the video for you. Please like this video. It helps my channel so much. Comment down below what you want to see in future videos, or if this video helped you, or if you want a part 2. Subscribe and hit that notification bell for future videos. And as always, let's get into it. So the most important first step into how to love yourself is kind of like figuring out where it all went wrong. Like figuring out where these limiting beliefs came from, why you feel like you're not good enough, why you feel like you can't show up the way that you want to, right? Because we have that inner critic in our head that's always yapping, saying the worst things about us. So what we need to do is reaffirm to ourselves what our worth really is. And that starts with actually listening when we hear these limiting beliefs come up. So let's say that you have this limiting belief that you don't feel like you're worthy of being in love with yourself, for instance. And then you go down this path of, where did this come from in my history? Why do I feel like I can't fully love myself and show up as the most authentic version of myself? What is it in me that is from the past that is still inhibiting me from being the version of myself that I want to be? Was it my parents telling me that I wasn't good enough? Was it that I got bullied as a child? Was it that I had unhealthy relationships that told me that I couldn't amount to anything? Or, what is that toxic voice in your head, and where is it coming from? Because you have to unravel that limiting notion that you're not worthy inherently, because we all are inherently worthy, but it's hard to believe that when we are hard on ourselves. And a lot of us are hard on ourselves because we've never actually looked to the past to figure out why we became this way. And so we need to start digging into this limiting consciousness where we're like, I can't wear that outfit, or I can't speak up and be the version of myself that I want to be because I had people tell me that I was crazy, or I had people tell me that, be quiet, you should be seen, not heard. You have to dig into the past in order to stop. Yeah, I just immediately heard in my head that those that don't know history are doomed to repeat it, right? Yeah, those that don't know history are doomed to repeat it. And so if you are, ignoring the past because it hurts, then you are going to keep repeating those same mistakes because you're afraid to face it, which again is you giving your power away. Another major reason that we tend to let ourselves down is because we don't feel like we can show up as the version of ourselves that we want to be, and so we hold ourselves back. I was guilty of this, so there's no judgment here, not judging anybody, but let's say that you don't like your body, right? But then you make every excuse not to take care of yourself. You're kind of repeating a cycle, like you're upset because you don't like the body that you're in, but instead of like making the effort to actually exercise, you eat to feel better, rinse, wash, repeat, and you do the same unhealthy coping mechanisms. So we have to also hold ourselves accountable. So if you are, you want to love yourself, but you don't like the way you look, well, what can we do to change that? Because if it's eating healthy and you're not making the effort to do it, then yeah, you're going to have a battle within yourself because you're not showing up as the version of yourself that you want to be. And remember that change is hard regardless. So are you willing to be uncomfortable and unhappy doing the same thing over and over again? Like, what is that saying? Spirit, help me out. The definition of insanity is repeating the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, right? We have to actually hold ourselves accountable. But in reality, what we do is we give so much credit to voices outside of ourselves, but we ignore ourselves. And then we feel disconnected from ourselves. We look outside of ourselves for advice, which, listen, like, I make these videos to help people that don't really know where to start. So it's not about you don't have to know everything, right? You just need to know how to get the ball rolling. So what parts of you don't align with the version that you want to be, and what steps can you take in order to do that, and realizing that you have the power to do that. Don't let yourself get in the way, because I was that person where it was like, just last year, I was about 40 plus pounds heavier, and I really hated my body, and I was really judgy, and I wasn't mean to others, but it was just like, I would see girls that dress like I do now, and I'd be like, how do you do that? How do you go outside like that? I don't understand. And what I really wasn't realizing was it had nothing to do with those people. It was everything to do with me not liking myself. And a major reason that I didn't like myself is because I wanted to be that girl that was confident and could wear whatever she wanted, but I wasn't doing the work that it would take in order for me to like myself enough to show up like that. And so I had to realize that in order to start loving myself in that aspect, in a physical way, that I had to take care of myself. Because listen, this is the only meat suit that we get in this lifetime, right? And so, it's a lot easier to give love and to build up other people, but it's really hard to take our own advice, right? Because we're hardest on ourselves. Like, speaking from experience, I think we all, to an extent, are this way, where no one can be meaner to us than us. We just still, take the beatings of other people because sometimes we care what they think, which that's its own other video. I could do a video on that. Stop caring about what other people think. Let me know in the video comments down below. But when we don't do the work, then we only have ourselves to blame, right? And it's really easy for us to blame people outside of ourselves, right? Like, oh, our parents didn't support us, and our exes were cruel to us, and so we have all these reasons to feel sorry for us, and then eat comfort foods and watch comfort shows and binge TV to escape ourselves. And that's the major issue that we have, is it's so easy to run away from ourselves. There are so many options in order to do that, and so we don't give ourselves enough time to hear what it is that we really want. And so if you're somebody that has an issue with your body, but you're not trying to make any changes, you're not exercising, you're not getting out of the house, you're not just changing your food, you're overeating, and you have to realize that a lot of the coping mechanisms that we use to avoid ourselves are actually hurting ourselves even more. So where do you disrespect yourself almost? Where do you let yourself down? When it comes to the inner critic, for instance, we often listen to that, but what we don't really do is dive into where did that inner critic come from? Because once you realize that all of this is in the palm of your hands, you are in control of loving yourself, of the voice that is being talked in your mind. That's when you can gain control back of your life, because then you realize that it was always up to you. The voice that's in your head, it came from someone else. You weren't born and then one day you're like, oh, I hate me, I hate my stomach, I hate the way I look, I hate the clothes I pick, I hate this, I hate that. No, other people gave that voice to you, and then it became your own. And as a society, which I get it because I was there too, we have a tendency to blame everyone else, right? I was guilty of this, and I had to go through the stages of grief, and those are in other videos, you can check them out. But I always blamed other people, right? It was like, oh, my parents didn't build me up, and they didn't teach me how to do this, and I had relationships that brought me down and made me feel like I wasn't worthy, and so then I believed that I wasn't worthy, and I believed that I wasn't enough. But it's our choice to decide what that voice is, and if we don't look at it for what it is and realize that it's not our own voice and then change that narrative, then we're always going to be doomed to repeat these same mistakes. We're always going to think, oh, well, I'm not worthy because so-and-so said that, and my parents said this, and my boyfriend said that, and my ex-boyfriend said this, and it's always giving the power to other people and not ourselves. So with this life hack of actually bringing it inwards that I've said in many videos, where what is this telling me about myself? Stop letting outside forces control you and bring it back in. I don't feel good within my body. What is this telling me about myself? Oh, it's telling me that someone called me fat in high school and middle school, and I was bullied, and my parents didn't help me, and yada, yada, yada. But then you realize where it's coming from. And once you realize where it's coming from, it no longer has as much control over you or as much power. If I'm stuttering a lot, bear with me. We're in the shadow of Mercury retrograde. These videos may not be perfect, but it's realizing that we got to stop giving our power away. We got to stop letting voices from the past control our future and control our present moment. So in order to love yourself, it's a mixture of a couple of things, right? It's realizing, what does our head say to us? Where does it come from? And how can we stop that from repeating itself? What voices from the past are still lingering in our mind today? And are those voices that we would even accept advice from? Don't take criticism from people that you would never ask advice from. If they aren't people that inspire you, if they aren't people that you see as role models, then why are you taking what they have to say to heart? You know, if you don't want to live their life, then why are you listening to their rhetoric? It's not that important. But in society, we feel like in order to love ourselves, we need the approval of others. That's not it at all. What we realize is that we've done it backwards. We have to love ourselves first, and then the people that are a good match to you, they will find you. You may have to let go of a lot of people in your life. You may need to take a look at the people around you. Are your friends supportive of you growing? Is the person you're dating supportive of you learning to grow and love yourself? Do you have parents that are judgy or hypercritical? You have to look at the people around you as well, because you may see a pattern of people that are holding you back from being the best version of yourself. And then you're going to have to be honest with yourself and decide if those are people that you still want in your life. Because in order to love yourself, you may have to make some hard choices. You may have to learn to make some really strong boundaries, and you may have to keep some things to yourself so that while you're working through it, no one can get in the way of it. If there is a wound that you're working through that may be from childhood or just an early age, maybe a relationship that really messed you up inside, you have to realize that not everybody wants you to win, right? You're going to find those people when you're already kind of aiming for winning, but not everybody's going to come on that ride with you. And so you have to understand that a lot of those voices were meant to be your teachers to help you get your power back. A lot of times in society, we think that these people that are negative are controlling us, right? And they're breaking us, and it's all of them, and it's nothing to do with us, and they're the reason that we're this way. That's not the case at all. And that victim mentality is really strong. And hey, I'm guilty of it. I was guilty of it. I'm not judging. I'm speaking from experience. I blamed everyone else for my problems. And in reality, I needed to do that to an extent because my pain was never validated. And that's the thing, especially if you're an empath or a highly sensitive person, you probably were never validated with your emotions. And so now it's like, well, I was never validated, and so I learned to overgive, and so I found my worth in being there for other people. Now you're taking that power back and pouring it into yourself. A lot of people aren't going to like that switch up if they're people that benefit from you not loving yourself out loud, especially if they can't do it. You're going to naturally trigger them. So this has to be an inner journey alone. Make sure you realize who's actually there for you and who's not, but you're going to have to delve into who really supports me versus who are my trauma bonds, who are the people that, you know, I had to lose a lot of friends because they were my party friends. They weren't there to actually be my friends. They were there because we had one thing in common. We were trying to escape our lives. But when I didn't want to escape my life anymore, when I wanted to take my power back, I triggered a lot of people because I was switching it up. And back then I didn't really understand. And I was like, why are these people so angry at me? Why do they hate me? Why are they projecting? And why am I so triggered? And in reality, it's because these people that we're constantly around, right? When you decide that you want to level up, then you're showing them that it's possible, and maybe they don't want to level up. And so now you're triggering them. That's the thing. We see a lot of people that are friends or that are dating, and they talk a lot of crap about each other, right? But it's really because they don't feel good within themselves, and so they do it to other people, and we do it to other people because we don't feel good within ourselves. Hurt people, right? And so you have to understand that a lot of the reason we don't love ourselves is because we have a society that benefits from us not loving ourselves. And that's a whole other, I've done videos on that, about society, corporations, all that stuff. They benefit from us consuming. They don't benefit from us loving ourselves, because if we were to truly love ourselves, I mean unconditionally love ourselves, we wouldn't be eating crappy food. We'd be taking care of ourselves. We'd be living off the land. We wouldn't be binging shows, binging food, binging alcohol, drugs, whatever. And, you know, I'm guilty of so many different things. I preach don't drink caffeine, and I got caffeine sitting right next to me. We all have our bad days. We're human. But understanding that we need to have a strict regimen. Like, I'm getting Virgo energy like hard in my head right now. It's realizing who we want to become, How far away are we from that? And what is it going to take to get us there? If you want to be healthy, what kind of exercise routines do we really need to keep ourselves accountable for? And remember that it takes 21 days to make something a habit. So if you're like, oh, it's going to take me forever, I don't know if I'm ever going to commit to this, 21 days is all it takes for that to become your new normal. Because remember, scientifically speaking, we run on mostly subconscious programming. So it's a lot harder for us to change when something is a habit. It's a lot easier for us to lay on our couch and watch TV if all we do is lay on our couch and watch TV. So when we switch that up, our body's like, this is uncomfortable. But if you roll with it and you keep committing to it, then that will be your new normal. I used to hate going to bed early. Now that that's a habit, it's uncomfortable for me to stay up late. I don't like it anymore. So understand that you can do this work and you can begin to love yourself, but you have to hold yourself accountable while at the same time deprogramming all the noise from the past people. And understanding that as you level up and become the person you want to be, not everybody's going to support you, but people will show who they really are so that you don't have to feel bad about it. They're going to show their true selves and you're going to realize who it was that was holding you back in the first place. The best way to begin loving yourself is to begin taking your power back. So anytime something or someone makes you feel less than, you have the power to change the narrative. That inner critic in your mind, start asking, what is this telling me about myself? What wound are they hitting that I agree with? And what in my past made me feel that way so that I can rewrite that narrative to better fit the healthy version of myself that I know that I can be, that I want to aspire to be, because I know that I'm meant for more. And I know that if I commit to this, then I am committing to myself. And what better commitment than to really indulge in loving yourself? And I know that that's hard because we live in a very sick society. But if you can make this a daily practice, a daily habit, where every time you're triggered or every time you're upset or every time you're holding yourself back, you go, what is this telling me about myself? Then you can begin to learn who you are. That subconscious programming that's running in the background, that's making you decide to pick chips over fruits, that makes you decide to hide yourself instead of coming out. The difference between loving yourself and not loving yourself is the voice in your head that's saying that you're not worthy. Where did that come from? We have to delve deep into that. And that's where, shadow work is useful, inner child healing, or just going to therapy, whatever it takes for you to learn to begin to realize that you are the one in control of the life that you're living. No one is in control of your life but you. And I know that you're probably thinking about someone or something, some traumatic event. Listen, I understand that. I've been through a lot of traumatic experiences in my life. I could write a book, and I probably will one day, to be honest with you. But when we let those things define us instead of doing the healing work, then we are slaves to our past. And none of us want that, right? We want to get over the past and we want to have a future that looks bright. But when we constantly listen to the narrative of our past and we decide that that's just who we're going to be, then yeah, that's who you're going to be. You're never going to change unless you decide to make that work. And it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be hard. And not everybody's going to support you. Not everybody wants you to win, especially the people that are closest to you when you finally decide that you don't want to be a victim anymore, because hurt people like to stick together. And there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't mean that you're better or anybody's better or less than. It's simply that you're at a different stage in your life. You're ready to close that chapter of the book that says, I'm a victim and I can't be more and I can't live up to my potential and maybe I have no potential. Maybe you're tired of hearing that in your own mind. And we also need to realize that we got to stop blaming the people of the past for that rhetoric, because most of those voices, they don't even exist anymore, right? It was really easy for me to blame people in my life for everything that was wrong when it was partly true, because yeah, they did some damage and it hurt me and it made me fall backwards a little bit. But eventually it came to the point where I was blaming people from things that happened years ago that if you ask them, they don't even remember it. And so who's really hurting in the end? Is it them or is it us, right? And in the reality of things, it's us. We're the only ones still being affected by that past. They're moving on to either hurting other people, or they've moved on and they don't remember saying what they said, or whatever the case may be. but that has now become our voice, our inner critic. Now we remember those things like it was yesterday, right? That person that told you that you're too fat, that person that told you that you're too skinny, you look like you need to eat a hamburger. Whatever it is that is your trigger, that voice still exists inside of you, but it's not even being talked about anymore. But we let that control our lives, and that's where we need to make the change happen. We need to let go of the things that have happened in the past, and again, that comes with shadow work. I'm not saying just ignore the pain that's in your heart. Don't ever do that. What I'm saying is delve into the why it became your own voice. Delve into the why I still let this control me. Delve into the what do I need to do in order to stop letting that voice control me? What type of work do I need to do to heal that wound so that I can become the best version of myself, so that this doesn't keep triggering me and holding me back from the version of myself that I want to become? So to sum up this video, the biggest advice that I could teach you is to life hack it with, what is this telling me about myself? What is this telling me about myself? What is this telling me about myself? Use it in every single situation that brings you a negative emotion. If someone triggers you, if you're feeling nostalgic about something and it's making you sad, every single time you're having a negative emotion, especially when it comes to someone or not being able to live up to your highest potential, what is this telling me about myself? Is there a wound here that needs to be addressed? I feel like I want to dress a little bit sexy, but I don't feel like I can. What is this telling me about myself? I'll give you a really quick example. I didn't feel comfortable dressing like this because I thought that made you a hoe, that made you this, that, the third. What I didn't realize was I had a parent that went to Catholic school. And so they learned that, you know, you have to be super reserved and that you have to be this and that. And you can't love yourself because that's what it was taught. And so I developed that inner voice where if you dress like this, you're a hoe. If you dress like this, you're easy. If you dress like this, it's because you want to sleep around, yada, yada, yada. I never knew what loving yourself was because I was taught to be more reserved. I was taught to be a good girl. And listen, that's not to fault the parent that taught me that. That's what they learned. But it's up to us, like I said, to stop that narrative that's going on in your head. You have the option to decide who you want to be and how you want to show up. And if you have that limiting belief, then you need to go, what is this telling me about myself? So that you can stop that voice from repeating itself, so that you can begin to love yourself. And when I realized, like in that example, that I was taught that showing your skin meant that you're a hoe, and I had to rewrite that narrative to say, no, showing my skin means I feel good within my skin. I worked hard. I exercised. I ate well. I deserve to show the parts of me that I love. And if people have something to say, that's on them because that's their voice. It's not my own. When you can own your own voice and not let other people's criticisms affect you, or if it does affect you, again, rewriting, what is this telling me about myself? See it as a life hack of, I am in control and everyone else is merely a teacher teaching me what it is that I still need to heal within myself. They don't have control over my life. They're actually something that's great. They are something that is showing me a wound that now I can heal. Now I can go within. So when we keep giving our power away, it's a lot harder to love ourselves because we're listening to that voice and that voice and that voice and that voice. But they don't live your life, you do. And they are likely coming from a wound as well. So if they're not healing their own wounds, then why are we listening to their advice? We have to do the work on ourselves. We have to realize where those wounds are coming from, and we have to rewrite it. Why do I feel like I can't exercise? What is up with that? Okay, it's because I don't feel like I have the energy for it. It's because I have this belief that it's not going to work. I have this belief that, if I exercise, I'm really not going to lose any weight, or whatever it is that keeps you from doing the best, whatever that keeps you from becoming the version of you that you want to become. Why do you hold yourself back? Where is this wound coming from? How do we heal it? And that's how we move forward. We need to stop giving other people and past events so much weight within our lives and start to realize that the only voice that matters is our own. What is our head telling us? What do we need to remove if it's negative? How do we do that so that we can move forward and begin to truly love ourselves? You have to be your own best friend, your own spouse, your own parent. You have to love yourself so much that the only people that can come in are people that show you that exact same love. And isn't that what we all want, right? You're not going to stop attracting people that trigger you until you realize what those triggers are so that you shut those triggers down. Just like attracting trauma bonds when it comes to relationships, right? You get someone who sleeps on you, they're emotionally unavailable, or they're really verbally abusive to you, one or the other, and you're like, I don't understand why I attract this, and then you beat yourself up. But in reality, it's because for some reason, you don't love yourself, whether that's you don't love yourself and so you became hyper independent, or you don't love yourself and so you expect other people to build you up. Either way, there is a deficit within you that needs to be addressed, and the only person that's meant to address it is you, because if you fill those voids, then no one else can tear you down. No one else can make you question yourself, and then you'll be able to show up more authentically and love yourself even louder, and everybody else will just be like a little bug. It's just like, nah, don't really care what you have to say because I know you're wrong. I love me. I did the work. Did you? Because remember, hurt people hurt people. And if you're listening to people that don't focus on themselves, why? Why? You know what I mean? You're not going to be able to love yourself if you're listening to people that don't love themselves, dumping their crap onto you. It starts and ends with you. What are people saying that's triggering me? What can I learn about myself? How do I do that? Rinse, wash, repeat. It really is that simple. And again, it's creating a new habit in your mind and in your day-to-day life. How do I want to show up? Who do I want to be? What steps do I have to take in order to get there? And then you commit to that the same way you would commit to a partner that you want validation from so bad, or the same way you would commit to a parent that you always wanted their love and appreciation from. The way you give to others, now flip it and give it to yourself. So I'm going to end with that. Let me know if that was helpful down in the comments. Let me know if you need a part 2. I can delve into this for hours. This was my favorite lesson to learn. But as always, I believe in you. You can do it. As always, it takes 21 days to make something a habit. So try it for 21 days before you give up on yourself. I'm sure we've all overdone a relationship, right? We've stayed in there for far too long because we saw their potential. We saw that maybe it could be something. Give that to yourself. See the unrealized potential in yourself and pour that energy into yourself. Give that 20 days, 21 days, and see what happens. I believe in you, bestie. So I'm going to leave it at this. Please like this video. It really does help my channel. Comment down below what you want to see in future videos. Subscribe and hit that notification bell for all videos that I post within the week. I will see you guys in my next video. I love you guys so much. You can do it. We can all begin to love ourselves and help spread that in the world. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.